Alright, hey guys, welcome to part 16 of my ActionScript 3 platformer tutorial. Before we dive into the new stuff, which is going to be switches, I'm going to fix a few little things that are just aesthetic things, nothing serious. First thing is, I noticed when I was running this, when we are underneath a block, we kind of get stuck under it and slide down. And the reason that happens is because the point where we send it back is 5 into the block rather than being right on the bottom. And if we change that, things will be messed up, so we have to leave that there. So in order to fix that, the thing I'm going to do, rather than making this 5 in 2, which would make it so that you get stuck 5 in, I'm just going to say obj.grav equals 0. So now we can run that again. And you hit something on the bottom, you just bounce right back off. And that way we don't sit under something when we're running into it from the bottom. We just pop right back down, which is a lot more realistic. And then another thing is when you are holding down an arrow key as you are right up against a wall, things get a bit screwy, and I want to fix that. And in order to do that, we want to just go into the top of the check stuff part where we have the A down and D down, and we're just going to add a simple addition to each of these. If chart clinging is not equal to 1 for the first one, and if it's not equal to -1 for the second one. And I was having some issues with this, but now we should go up to this wall. Like, you see how it goes in. I did those in the wrong order. This one's 1. This one's -1. You're able to go into the wall a little bit, and that's not okay. That happened ever since we switched around the character and block enter frames for loops. You can still go in. That is odd. Oh, wait, I put it in the wrong one. That explains it. And they weren't switched. Sorry about that. Now we try this. You can't go into the block. I'm holding down A as I'm doing this, and you just stay right on the edge. Okay, so now we're going to get into switches, and in order to do this, we're just going to add some more stuff in our new styles array for new blocks. And I'm going to adjust the map a little bit. I'm going to take this row where the key is and just make it blocks all the way up to the point where you can't jump over it. You have to actually use the switch in order to do that. And so we're going to go ahead, fill these in with 1s as well, except we're going to have something a little bit different in the one that we want to be the wall that the switch opens and this block that's going to have the switch on it. So the one that we want it to open is going to be this one. We're just going to make an array that's 1, 0 rather than just a 1. And then let's say we'll put the switch on this block, and we're just going to make it 1, 0, 1. Those are pretty simple. They're really going to show why we did that down here in the part where we actually construct blocks. So instead of just saying if it's an array, we're going to add a secondary if inside here that says if styles index ij dot length is equal to 5. Then we'll do all this. And then we want to copy and paste this, say for 3, and then for 2. And in the one for 3, that's going to be the block with the switch on it. And we're going to say block.add switch, and then we're going to take this argument, and then the one for 2 instead of 1 for the second argument. We're about to write that function when we go over to the block class. And then for the one where there's 2, we're just going to say block dot switchable equals true, block dot switch index equals dot length, yada yada, 1. So that's really all the code that we need for that thus far. In here, the rest of the code is going to be over here. So we're going to need to add those variables that we just made over there. We're going to add switchable, which is going to be a boolean, set to false initially, and then public var switch index equals -1. And then I think those are the only two. Yeah. And we're actually going to have a third variable. We're going to call it switched. It's going to be a boolean as well, and it's going to be set to false. So we can go in here underneath adjust, and we're going to make this new function. Add switch. It's going to take in two things. It'll take in the index, which will be an int, and the direction, which is going to be an int. It's going to be, 1 is going to be, there's going to be a switch on top of the block, 2 it's going to be on the right side, 3 it's going to be on the bottom, 4 it's going to be on the left. We made it a 1 when we went 1 0 1, so this one's going to be on the top of this block. So in order to add this switch, we're actually going to go ahead and make another variable. We can call it switch. We can't. Swit. That works. We're going to make that a movie clip, just blank movie clip. And we're going to say if direction is equal to 1. First off, we're going to say switch index, and then in here, we're going to say swit.graphics.draw and begin fill. And this is going to be the graphics for the switch itself. Let's just make it gray. A whole bunch of 7s. Swit.graphics.drawRect. And we're going to say -15, -35, 30, and 10. Swit.graphics.endfill. And then finally at the bottom, swit, or add child swit. And that's going to add this movie clip as a child of this particular block. And that's going to be important later when we want to remove this when the player is actually standing on top of it. So in order to remove this block, we need to make an if statement in our check obj of the block. We can just throw this at the top. We're going to say if obj dot y plus obj dot height divided by 2 equal to y minus height divided by 2. And obj.onBlock is equal to place, and obj.type is a player, because only the player can trick a switch, and switch index is not equal to -1, meaning we actually have a switch that we're set to, and switched false. All that stuff will be the requirements. Then we're going to remove child swit and say switched equals true. But one thing that's going to be different now, if we add this child, the height of our block that has the switch on it is going to be entirely different because we're going to have 10 extra pixels on the top. One thing I'm going to do is add 2 private variables into the block that is going to say width and high. We're going to set them both equal to 50. And I'm just going to do a quick find and replace. Replace all the widths with a space in front of them so that it's not one of the ones that's connected to the object with width. And replace all the heights with highs. I think there's probably a few in here that I don't have a space in front of. It didn't get changed by that. And we want to make sure that we change all of them and don't leave any behind. Yeah, right here. Gonna make sure that there's no others. Quick. One more. Alright. So now we're only going to use the block that's originally there, just the 50 by 50, and that'll be our width and our height. And that switch will be there when we need it, and when we don't, it goes away. So now we're going to take this new value of switched that we have on this block, and we're going to apply it so that we can open the door when we need to. So in here, in the for loop for blocks, at the bottom of it, we're going to say if blocks I dot switched. And then we're going to make another for loop inside of this. We're going to run it backwards because it's going to remove whichever block we don't want anymore because it's the wall that's blocking us. S minus minus. If blocks S dot switch index is equal to blocks I dot switch index, and I is not equal to S. Basically, you're not going to have this run if it's just checking itself. Cam dot remove child blocks S blocks dot splice S1, and then blocks I dot switch index equals -1, blocks I dot switched equals false. Break. And we need that break so that it doesn't go ahead and then proceed to get rid of every single block that has a switch index of -1, which is like all of the ones that don't have switches on them. So we run the break so that this for loop stops as soon as we find the right one, and we don't delete everything in our path. Spelled private wrong again. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot about. Now that we have a block in the top row, right here, this code that we have doesn't work anymore. Here it is, because it only checks if you're in the top row at the very beginning and then proceeds to go about its business, assuming that you're already in the top row. So what we need to do is take this whole thing that's already here, put it in another set of parentheses, and before that, we're going to say I is equal to 0, or I know it's weird because it says it right there, and then there's an or, but it works this way, and this way we don't have to change what we already have. Oh, wait a minute, because that just ran with errors and it didn't actually come up. Yeah, it's being used by another process. It's actually running right now, we just can't see it, so I actually have to go into Task Manager and end the process manually. But now, everything should work fine. We can see here's our switch. And there's no different color for the block that's actually the door that the switch is going to open. Probably should have done that, but we go over here. Oh. Alright. Blocks S is not switch index. Term is undefined and has no properties. Switch index. That's interesting. This should work, I think, the way that it looks right now. I don't see why it's not. Let me just check something real quick. I have this whole platformer running in a second. I try out all the code in a different copy of the same file before I do this. And I got it working in here. See. Oh, I didn't change this in the original. That might be part of it, but let's see. Is the for loop different? No? Ah, except it doesn't run backwards. I guess we can try that. Let's run it forwards. Oh wait, yeah, because it has to be -1. Yeah, duh. I'm stupid sometimes. Alright. So now we go over here, hit the switch, block goes away. We can't get the key yet because we haven't killed the enemies. Come on. There we go. Yeah, we're gonna work on making that a lot smoother because there's a bit too much collision detection right now. Well, that's just about it for this tutorial. Next time I'm gonna add pushable blocks that we can put on top of switches to keep them down when we want to add the kinds of switches that you need something on top of them to actually depress them and keep them depressed. So, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.